So in January, we started this project. It was, we've had this COVID going on, quarantine going on. We've not been able, nobody's playing anywhere. It struck me is that some of the places, what we could do is maybe start going outside, fresh air, socially distanced, whatever you have to do. And so the idea came to, like, we're going to start a project, a HOPE project is what we end up calling it. And we started in January, you and I, blind director Luke. And we started it in my hometown, Old Hickory. And then we did the second one, so it was Old Hickory, was episode number 1. We went to East Nashville second. Yeah. We went to Dixon third. Went to Clarksville, Tennessee fourth, which I did that one by myself. Yeah. It was just hairy doing all of this camera work, sound work, out alone, and then I'm in the parts of town and I'm going, I don't know how safe it is around here.
But the mural was cool.
But the mural was awesome.
The background's too good.
But then what happened from there is we, one of the places I've been wanting to go to is to Muscle Shoals. And so we made a preparation, and at that point, Jason joined us, and we went to Muscle Shoals and we shot 2 episodes. That would be 5 and 6 of the whole project. They turned out really better than expected, I think. Yeah. These things have been really cool. For sure. So it started out, so we are the crew of these HOPE project. We all do everything, we all carry everything, we all work everything. You and I do music parts of it mostly. Jason's probably going to join us in some stuff later. And then Jason joined us though, and Jason is our on-set photographer. He is amazing. And it was like I knew he was good, but he began doing that and stuff.
Captured a lot of the moments that we got to.
And Jason's a really good researcher.
Yeah.
Which he's really good at finding good restaurants and stuff.
Hey, that's all part of it.
But it's also part of scoping out the towns we're going to do. We got plans to do, so the whole project is a 25-city busking tour outside against the backdrops of these cities and pointing to the cool uniqueness of these small towns, and also allowing us to share that in ways people can support these communities. So
it's just been cool to also dive into the history of each place we go. And you target one thing and then you end up discovering all these other people or things that happen in this place. It's like it's a lot of the side,
it's amazing.
Appreciate stuff that.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, it's funny because like the last one, we know we're going for one thing and it's like, oh, this happened here and oh, that happened there.
Yeah.
Well, Muscle Shoals.
Muscle Shoals.
Muscle Shoals was big with that. Like we didn't know
the extent
all the other stuff that was, the history of that area. We just knew we wanted to go to
the 2
music
studios, the Fame studio, and the Muscle Shoals Sound studio, and then we did all that, and it was just so much. And actually, we broke it into 2 episodes because it was just too much.
There was a lot of stuff,
and even those episodes are longer than the normal ones.
Yeah. And we still didn't get to everything in the area.
No,
there was more stuff we just didn't have time for.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like what this is all about, So we've been doing Meeting Underground for years now. We've had 3 seasons, so it's like 3-4 years of doing it.
Yeah.
And we haven't done it in a while, but we're going to start season 4 of somewhat loosely connecting to some of these towns we're going to and talking about subjects that, like for instance in Muscle Shoals, we went down to the dam and we saw some of the nature stuff and all that. It would have been great to talk about that, but it didn't fit and go into it.
Yeah.
So the idea of doing this is bringing us, connecting loosely or kind of connecting these episodes of the Meeting Underground this season with HOPE Project cities that we're connecting. So every month we're going to be, it's going to take us about 2 years to do 25 cities, by the way, because we're doing about once a month.
It's a goal.
But it's something to do, and they're unique.
Yeah.
But now we've got side projects in these, and we're going to talk about them. Therefore, this episode. You want to say a little bit about what this place is? It's about Johnny Cash. The name of this episode is The Center of My Universe, Johnny Cash.
Right, that's good.
And it was amazing. Any first thoughts about the whole thing? Just the whole experience of it?
I think it was personally bizarre because where we're speaking about is Centerville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And we grew up so close to it. I have friends that live there.
Never knew anything about it.
Yeah.
No, and then I think that's what was even more bizarre for me is realizing how much history was in this little town away from even, smaller than Dixon. And it's like you go there and to see all that history.
It's pretty cool.
Pretty incredible.
When you live in this area, which we have for 20-something years, Nashville area, you always assume any like country musician or whatever, you think Nashville, and you forget where they lived and things like that. It wasn't necessarily in
usually
downtown.
Away from people.
So to find out that that Johnny Cash's farm that he had for 30 years or whatever was out in like Bon Aqua, Tennessee, like
down the road.
Yeah.
A little bit down the road. So but it was really cool, and the reason why we did it was Centerville was the Episode 7 is about Centerville, which is also the hometown of Minnie Pearl. We did we did our whole project about kind of centered around Minnie Pearl, and sang a song to her in the park. Well, besides that, Centerville is the county seat of Hickman County, and Bon Aqua is in Hickman County.
Yeah.
So we knew that it was not that far, and we wanted to go check it out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like about all it was. We love Johnny Cash, but it was cool.
Yeah.
And then
Very cool.
and then we got there, and starting out there was you want to describe it a little bit, like there's the farm and then there's the museum. They're all. You want to say anything about?
It's what?
property?
It's 100 and what is it?
7.
I'm sorry.
107.
107 acres.
Yeah.
Okay. So both locations are just on that same plot of land.
And they're about the same thing. Sort of.
Right. So they're not even a mile apart, I think.
No, I don't even think it was.
No.
Yeah.
It's just down the road.
The museum and the farm, and then we went to. Well, we landed at the museum first. That's where we meant to go first.
Walked in the door on a discussion.
Yeah, we went to
video show and go, I don't think we're in the right place.
We showed up at the farm, thinking we were going to the museum. Yeah,
that's down the road.
And so they sent us down there, and that's where we bought our tickets and everything. And because it's not all the same people, but they work together. We never really did establish that, but basically, when you bought your tickets, it was to both things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once we'd had tickets in hand was when we were at the museum. So that's where we started.
I think starting out, even though anything you want to add?
No, go ahead.
Starting out, it was kind of my overall impression was I'm a fan of Johnny Cash, mostly by the cool rock stuff and the cool urban stuff, the kind of the raw stuff that he did, the Ring of Fire, and I love all that stuff. And he was just foundational.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know a lot about him. And this was an eye opener to who he was, because his personality is over all of it.
Yeah.
So
this is his personal life area. Like the museum's one thing, but the house was like the personal side of him, not like.
So what views of yours changed about the whole idea, about him? Anything?
I mean, I think his faith was probably the most like eye opening thing. He has lyrics and stuff about his beliefs and stuff. When you go there and you see his personal space, he's got stained glass everywhere, and like
it was deeply part of his life.
Yeah, and you felt it, and you could see it.
And that was actually pointed out to us that a lot of the time that he spent out there, yes, it was to where he landed post tour, or whatever, but it was also where he went to write, and a lot of this. I guess the later, because he owned the place for 30 years or something like that. So I guess the later part of that was when it came to a lot of the spiritual, like lyrics that focus on his lyrics, was all stuff that it was his tendency to be there to do the writing there with that stuff.
It seemed like his quiet place where you could kind of ruminate.
It was his quiet place, and that kind of goes more bigger into the house, which we're going to talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
But so the museum, we pull up to the museum. First thing I noticed was the bus. And we were looking around and getting ready to walk in, and I look over and I'm going, I remember that bus. It's like an old tour bus where he and all the it's probably like he and Elvis and Jerry Lee and all them drove around in that bus, and it's sitting there. So I got a little video. We're going to show you a little bit of that. But that was cool. And then we went in the place. walk in.
So it's in. I also come to find out it's in like this really old general store that's been there since the
1800s.
Yeah.
Which they redid the newest owners of the museum.
Yeah.
Redid it all, but it's cool. It's the original structure that Johnny Cash bought
It was
back
a
in the day.
grocery store train stop or something.
Yeah, for people like out on a place to get snacks and simple stuff
Yeah, it's
when
cool.
they're out on the out on the road. It's wild.
And then they turned it in.
It's
Somebody
cool.
before Johnny Cash turned it into a recording studio.
Oh yeah.
And then it went to Johnny, and Johnny, there's lots of stuff videotaped in that place.
Yeah.
But-
History.
So the museum itself, what was your impressions? We, just loosely, we went in, there's an open entranceway,
Yeah.
a lot of shirts.
Yes.
Yeah, some
One of my favorites I
Oh,
got.
I'm not wearing mine. I have the same shirt.
some
Because
really
it's
cool.
awesome.
Cool
when
merch.
the man comes to town.
Yeah,
right?
when man comes around. Yeah.
Man Comes Around, sorry, that's his song, The Man Comes Around, real gospel scorcher.
Oh yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
very cool shirt.
Yeah, but so that was in there, and then from there, and then go ahead. Maybe your impressions walking in, and then walking into the main area.
So let me think. When we walked in, yes, there was the shirts and the things like that for you to buy out front, but mainly we were talking to. Did we get her name? I didn't get her
She
name.
is Mark Cash's
Mark's
wife.
Yeah. So it's this husband
I
and
didn't
wife
get her name.
that run this museum
Mhm.
together.
Very nice.
Yeah, she was very cool.
And when we told her what we were shooting to do, what we were there to shooting, she was really excited about
Yeah.
Yeah.
it. And so that was cool.
So I know we kind of walked in and we were talking to her and kind of like scoping the place out, but I recall that like the timing on it, he was about to start performing, I think.
Yes.
He was,
Yeah.
he was already with a group.
So we kind of pushed through to so as to not miss any of that, and then
Yeah.
went back out and talked to her later more.
yeah.
But,
Before we get to his performance,
Yeah.
what's some of your thoughts when you went in? Explain what it's like when you go into the room, past the entrance, past the merch.
Oh, past the merch room.
Just explain a little bit of what you
Yeah,
see
it
when
was
you
weird
walk
going
in.
in there because I had no idea what to expect. I didn't even really know what kind of museum it was. And you walk in, and it's like a gift shop, and they had surprisingly cool merch, which
Mhm.
was the kind of the first thing that struck me. But then you,
Which is why
Who'd have known Johnny Cash had so many nice shirts?
and we can kind of hear Mark Cash, doing like on stage, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what's back here? And we
Yeah.
gotta walk back there, and you walk into this big wide open room,
In the room.
just stage and just stuff.
And
everywhere.
even before Mark Cash, is you walk in this room and there's just displays
Yeah.
of tons of
All
stuff,
kinds of
and
stuff.
you can't take it in all at once. But then you start walking around and go, whoa!
Yeah.
Anyway,
The history in there is it's
pretty cool.
eye-opening, yeah.
we all caught stuff that the others didn't, and
Yeah.
we were like, "Did you see this thing?" Like, and we were taking each other around to be like, "Look,
Yeah.
I know.
which we'll get to
yeah, we'll get to it right now. Pick one thing that stood out to you.
real
One-
quick."
This is not. We're not talking about Johnny's nephew, which
Right.
is Mark Cash.
Yeah.
Because we'll mention him, but he does a whole presentation.
Yeah.
Brings
He's a
you
really nice
into.
guy.
Yeah.
But when you're in there, there's these displays, and they're not all about Johnny Cash.
No, they're not.
So
Much of history he collected.
what did you like? What struck you? Just pick one of the ones that was cool.
One of the things that jumps out to you the most, and it was hard to miss them, was that artwork by it was Brzezinska. Was the
Oh,
name?
the guy that does that folk art.
So you had, I mean, when you walk through the door, dead ahead was the one of Johnny. But then there was another one of Abraham Lincoln. There was another one
Bob Dylan.
of Bob Dylan. There was a fourth one. I
And it's
think,
this
too.
three-dimensional,
Yeah.
in a frame, three-dimensional folk art.
It's almost found art, but it's items that have to do with the art. Maybe even items that person owned.
I'm pretty
So
sure.
like the Johnny Cash one, it had pieces of like 45s of his music or guitar strings or things like that were like embedded in the art. So it's very
Yeah.
textual. It's a 3D.
It's really cool.
Comes out at you. That's that hit you in the face as soon as
Yeah.
you walk through
That
the
one
door.
of Johnny, and he
Johnny,
said, I
it
think
was
he
straight
did,
across.
I think he did say that. I don't know about the other ones, but I think they did say that specifically the Johnny one was entirely stuff of his.
Of
it was
his,
all
yeah.
personal
I think so.
belongings
Yeah.
and tickets, and
Yeah.
That was cool.
that was very cool.
And then there's lots of other stuff in there. One of the things that stood out to me, I walked over and I'm looking at this I'm going to do one of your own thing. Upright piano. And I'm looking at this piano. And we've had, on our HOPE projects, we've come across some pianos. have we not? We've come across pianos that are just so incredibly historic. Watch some HOPE projects, you'll see it.
Yeah.
But the piano, this upright beat up piano, it says that this piano was used to write the song Elvira, which the Oak Ridge Boys have been doing forever and ever and ever. Like,
classic. Yeah.
on this beat up old piano was written. It was cool. That was one thing.
Yeah.
What was something you thought?
Oh, geez. There was, well,
Just any of them.
not even related to Johnny Cash, and I wasn't the first one to notice, but that horse saddle.
The saddle.
Yes.
Jason pointed it out to me, and I'm like, oh, what was that? I said,
Yeah,
it's a horse saddle? That's cool. I was like, maybe it's Johnny's.
And I thought it was Johnny Cash's saddle, and I just thought,
I was like, that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Then Jason pointed out, it's
Good.
it's John Wayne's saddle.
It was
from
John Wayne's saddle.
John Wayne's saddle is just like, and obviously it makes sense. Like Johnny Cash would be a
Yeah,
huge fan.
it was really cool.
And it was cool that they had those little one-sheet things. I mean, it told how they got it.
Yeah.
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 It was really cool. And maybe something else you...
I know something that you were super excited for because
Yeah.
I saw.
Yeah.
I was there
Oh, yeah.
when you spotted it.
Yeah.
There was that guitar. That
Amazing.
Carl Perkins.
Yeah, we were talking about stuff, and you were talking about something else, and I'm looking at the wall, and I see this Nighthawk. It's a Nighthawk Gibson, which you don't see a lot, and I never even associated with him, but it was Carl Perkins' guitar, and they had a photograph of Carl Perkins playing that song. Blue Suede Shoes, by the way, is what he wrote.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like, so that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna move on a little bit, but
there was so much stuff though.
like the keys.
All the keys.
Yeah. The
Suitcase.
I've been every. What is it? I've been everywhere.
I've been
man.
everywhere, man.
I've been
everywhere. And then Mark Cash was saying, Uncle Johnny, when you sang that song, they must have had a sheet in front of you to list off all those cities. He says it was a big sheet.
So yeah, there was that like suitcase full of hotel keys.
Yeah.
From all the places, and
Yeah,
it was
where
all over the world.
Yeah.
It was all over the
Amazing.
world.
It was so cool.
And they had that really cool artwork that was down in front of it that was like a grid of like little boxes of all those and of all the different keys. And then right in the middle was a photo of the suitcase we were looking at. That was right behind it in the display case.
So that was really cool.
Something of note to me about the overall place. So I got that. There was a really cool angle. I showed Johnny. We missed it. That there was
when you're standing behind the saddle.
One of the support beams had a cross beam on it. It was a giant cross.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where if you're standing behind the saddle and looking straight at the stage, you had the saddle, and then you had the beam, and it was a wooden, huge, beautiful,
like rough wood, like not polished. Or it was like it had bark and stuff on it.
And it was obviously intentional.
Right. And if you think about that, plus, I mean, the seating on the floor, I feel like it was just chairs, but if you remember, all along the line, the walls
like
was pews.
Yeah, pew church.
It very much felt like
it had
a church
Yeah.
that had just been rearranged or something. You know, which was so cool.
Okay, so let's move on to Mark Cash. He was our narrator, our host. You walk in there, and there was a group of people, maybe 20 people in there doing through this particular tour, and he sang Johnny's songs. He told stories about Johnny. He was really, really cool.
Did a
nice
pretty good
guy.
Johnny impersonation.
Yeah. His voice is surprisingly close.
Yeah.
Once I realized he was related to him, I'm like, okay.
And he himself is a songwriter, and he has some shirts in the main of his. Real cool. All these black shirts they do, I just love them.
Yeah, there's some really cool.
But he was great. And there's going to be a little video showing you a little bit of him too. So, but that was cool. Mm-hmm. And then when we got done with that, out behind the museum is, first of all, he told us that Minnie Pearl's Cadillac was back there.
That's why we went back there.
And actually, we left. And we went, well, wait a minute, we never went to the back. We came back, and he had to open the door for us so we could go back and see it. And so we saw her. There was a stage back there, and there was the Cadillac. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the way he told us, you know how everything Minnie had was yellow.
Yellow, yeah.
So of course, the Cadillac was
it
yellow.
It says like howdy on the front, right? Or did it say, might have said Minnie Pearl, I don't know.
I can't remember, something like that.
But, so, what do you think?
I'm glad we went back there, because that whole back area was very cool.
Yeah.
They had another cross with a pool, like a fountain going through it.
What about that
and
stage?
dumping down.
Wouldn't you love to play
the
that?
stage, we took some pictures up on the stage because it was so cool and just like,
very
rootsy,
outdoor.
just like
it was like an outdoor
bluegrass stage or something.
camping setup.
A
And
tree
the
coming up
stage, a
straight
big giant
through the-
trunk of a tree going on stage.
Yeah.
But it was all very tasteful and really cool.
Yeah, and then I want to point out one thing. It was really fascinating. We looked over to the left when we came out, and there was just a jail cell. And we were like,
Oh yeah, that was.
and then come to find out, it's like I think it was given to him because I was listening to a live concert of him playing it.
He
prison.
played all these.
That was like a huge thing. And
Prisons and Johnny Cash
a lot of his lyrics
he
and
really
stuff.
had a heart for
Yeah,
prisoners.
Right. He did a
and explains all of his dark lyrics. He's talking to a lot
Yeah,
of prisoners
pretty
and
cool.
stuff. So
So we got a
was
couple
pretty
pictures
cool.
of us in there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, of course. I'm immediately like, oh, you guys need to get in this. Get in
That'll take
there.
And we got a little bit on stage.
We gotta do this.
Yeah.
You know?
So anyway,
that whole back.
it was really cool. The museum was really awesome.
Yeah.
And then we moved on to the farm.
The farm. Yes.
I believe in 1979 they shot a Christmas special that everybody in the world has seen, and it was the Johnny Cash Christmas show. And he had all these people like Waylon and all these different people that were on the show, and it was a Christmas special. I've seen it. All of that was shot at the farm that we're going to talk about. It was, so if you go back and watch that, it's kind of cool. And that's 79. It's like, I think that's the year it was. But so it all started there. So when you go, we left the museum and we went to the farm, which they call the Hideaway Farm.
Yeah.
And the Hideaway Farm was Johnny Cash's getaway.
Yeah.
And so we went in, and first of all, there's a lot of property, and we already talked about how we went in the wrong door and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing, there was the house, very rustic, almost like coming out of pioneer times or something. Very rustic, simple house. And Johnny Cash loved that place. He said this is where he went when everything was too much to handle. He would go there, and that's why he called it the center of his universe, this property and this house. So what was some of your thoughts as we walked up to the house? And what are your first impressions of the house? And this would be after we were there, we walked around, we went to the front door, and we walked in.
We walked in the front.
So what were some of your thoughts?
I didn't know what to expect. I guess that's what I said about the museum, but the house looks so
Rustic.
Yeah, it was
Primitive.
And they said the front little section of the house was built like during the Civil War. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
old.
1800s.
They added on
Or,
the back,
yeah,
and then the
for
rest
sure.
of the property's all newer stuff. But so when you walk in that first thing, the floors are uneven. It's all solid wood, like
Wood,
log,
everything.
Everywhere.
So
and it
gorgeous.
felt very
Like a
old.
cabin, like a pioneer cabin,
Yeah.
like a.
Yeah,
But it was very cool. The rooms weren't big, wasn't lavish at all, and he just would
Very
hang
cool.
out there.
yeah.
One of my impressions was that I watched a video about this place last year, and in the video there was this little old frail woman, and she was talking about all of the stuff and all the history, and sure enough, there she was, and she was a treasure trove of information. She knew everything about that family, everything about Johnny, everything you could possibly want, and you could ask her questions. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, she was a great host.
Yeah.
She
she-
enthusiastic about it still.
She kind of did her introduction to us and told us, up there is this, over there is that. Well, and then she's like, so go explore, etc. But then she'd walk around and catch up to you.
Yeah.
Like she'd catch up to you in that room. She'd be like, isn't this cool? And she'd like tell you things in that room.
Yeah.
She caught up to me.
In
when I
1980,
was-
in 1981, that was where June said this to me. It was
Yeah.
like this crazy cool
She just
stuff.
had all that kicking around in
Yeah.
her head.
So what were your first? So pick out something in the house that stood out to you.
Oh man. Well, where we were standing, which was the entranceway, and she was telling us all that, all the information about the house. You're looking around right away, and right in front of us, or right to the side of me, was that stairway up, and it was all wood.
And you couldn't go up there.
Right, we couldn't go upstairs, but it was that. It wasn't just like wood; it was like the rough wood. It was like log,
Like a
wood.
log, yeah.
Yeah, like log stuff, and right up the stairs and all that.
And it was signed by a bunch of people.
Yeah, a whole bunch of
Just like
which
looking around,
we
you go,
ended up
"Whoa,
noticing was a lot of. It wasn't strictly musicians or
Yeah.
famous
Actors,
people or whatever,
yeah.
but there were, we picked up
There
some
were,
big names. We found some big
From,
names on the
like
wall.
Waylon, stuff like
Yeah,
that. People,
yeah.
that was pretty cool.
But then right after that,
Right past.
so
Going
we're standing,
past.
and everything goes in all directions.
Yeah.
From where we were standing, there was a room to the left, a room to the right, and straight through. And so I turned to the left,
When it's that
which
room
was,
on the
I
left?
guess, probably the dining room. if
Yeah,
I
it was a
had to
table
guess.
sitting there.
That table,
Very cool.
oh my gosh,
I
it was
know.
just this massive, gorgeous, ornate wood table.
Yeah.
It was, 10 feet long,
Huge,
maybe?
yeah.
Really
And
nice.
just ornate stuff, and there's just this massive, like, family Bible sitting on the table. That was,
Yeah.
That
I mean,
Bible was
open.
old, man. It was
Yeah.
old. That was an
Very-
old
it was a
Bible.
big one. It was like even
Yeah.
open. It was,
Yeah, big.
Yeah.
it was probably closed. It was probably 6 inches thick. Like it was just.
And that was Johnny did everything big, and
Yeah.
that was his pocket Bible.
Yeah.
So that was like the centerpiece in that room.
Yeah.
But there were so many other cool things, like that there was
Yeah.
that display case running alongside, which we found out. You knew something
I
about
heard him
it.
talking about it.
It was the poster for the soundtrack for the movie. What was
Oh
the,
yeah.
What were the details on that? It was
I can't remember, but
it was biblical.
Oh no, it's the Gospel Road.
Yes.
I saw the Gospel Road.
Yeah.
It was like it was a Christian telling of the gospel. It was kind of the first back then because I was around. It was kind of the first overt thing
Yeah.
that Johnny did in
Yeah.
the Christian circle of things.
Yeah.
It was actually marketed for church uses and stuff.
Right.
I remember they showed that in churches. They showed it all, but that was the Gospel Road. That was,
And he did the soundtrack for it. I
Yeah.
guess I pointed out
Yeah.
to Johnny like, oh, you could like get this soundtrack and listen to it.
Yeah.
that'd be really cool.
Which is probably all Johnny and I mean I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but
Yeah. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of cool stuff in that room. There's,
Yeah.
I think some clothes and stuff. Like maybe. I'm trying
Yes.
to remember the details, but I think
Remember
there
the
was some
shirts?
cool.
they had shirts hanging up. Some of them were not as cool as others.
Yeah, but there was
but some of them were pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and then there was a photograph there on the wall of the Christmas special.
oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw, I think he was with, I think again it's Waylon. I think he was
I think
sitting
so.
there talking to him, and it's a
Yeah.
photograph from that presentation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So anything else? We can move on from that room too. You can.
Yeah, I mean the house was incredible. We literally got to walk into his bedroom.
Yeah.
Like I said it wasn't the original bed, but like
I got a
still,
little video of that, and we're going to show
the
it.
ceilings got really low. It was the house is just
Yeah.
ramshackle, but had so much character.
Yeah, it was really
In the
cool.
living room, I'll just mention in general, the furniture in the living room area was awesome.
Oh,
Awesome.
yeah.
All that beautiful leather
That
stuff.
chair, that one
Mhm.
chair was
Oh,
so
yeah,
cool.
that
And you
throne.
got
I
some,
did.
Yeah.
you got pictures of us sitting in different frames off a mirror from one.
Yeah.
I tell you, he's good at it. He's clever.
Yeah, there was some cool.
Yeah, he got some angles and stuff like that. We'll have to put a couple of
I
those
was
up.
like, Dad, sit out of that chair.
Yeah, it was cool.
I got it.
One of the,
What? Oh, sorry.
I was gonna go ahead.
That room, wasn't that the room she said to check? This
think
might have more to do with the history of the place, but didn't she say to check the ceiling in that room?
Oh,
for
the bullet
holes?
shot?
Yeah, the bullet holes.
You want to tell the story?
No, go ahead.
No, I don't want to tell that story. I got another one to tell.
Well, was that?
That was there. I don't know how that was tied into the Civil War story.
I think that's when it was. I think that's when she was saying.
This house goes back to the Civil War,
I believe,
Yeah.
like,
and the
a
original
general or
inhabitant.
a general or somebody in the Civil War.
It was like I think he was a Confederate, and when the Northern guys come up, there was some sort of a skirmish,
Yeah.
and he was the other soldier was shot and buried in the graveyard, which is behind the property.
Behind the house.
There's a cemetery in the back.
To say the least, there was a lot of history in that.
Not that
place.
we're promoting any of all that, but
No.
it happened anyway.
No,
So
just-
I think she said some of those bullet holes had something to do with that gunfight. Or something.
Like so Civil
We may be
War
embellishing.
bullet holes.
Yeah.
Shootout. Yeah.
Okay, so and then we went on. One of the things that stood to me, and I've heard this story before, but there's a little plaque in the living room next to the couch,
Yes.
and it told the story of how Johnny Cash. This is one of the coolest stories to get at the heart of who Johnny Cash was.
Yeah.
This was back in the 70s, I believe. June and him were talking about their finances and all this stuff like that, and they went and they started looking into some of the stuff that was going on. They found out that he had an accountant who had stole all his money and bought a bunch of property. Basically, he had been buying up a bunch of property. So Johnny Cash, they got it. They took and resold. They took and resold these properties that this crooked accountant bought and all that stuff. And then when it came to this property here in this house, he says he kept it. He says, oh, this is he kept it, and it became his center of his universe and all that stuff. The cool thing about it was this: cooler, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
The accountant, he never gave the name to anybody of who the accountant was that did it. He never filed charges.
Yeah.
He never took him to court. He just let him go. And when people would mention something about the guy, he would say, "Oh, he was on hard times."
Yeah.
That's Johnny Cash.
That's big heart.
The guy ripped him off of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and
Didn't
made
hold
war.
it. Yeah.
But that was kind of like what you got the impression of. Johnny Cash was a straight up guy.
Yeah.
Now this is after he'd been, his younger days when he was an addict and all kinds of stuff had happened.
Sure.
Yeah.
But he was a really upright, kind of cool guy, and you saw it in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seemed like a genuine, kind person.
So now let's go on out to the farm. So the property, you had the main house, and then there was a little place. I don't even want to go into all the details of each one of these things, but there was a little place where we originally walked in, and there was a guy, a caretaker there, that tells you all these stories, which we never did go back and set through his presentation. But he had tons of stuff, and he would talk all about it. And then you went on down, you wanted to see, so the property is 107 acres.
It's big.
You look back, beautiful tree line.
Yeah.
Way off in there, you see this big giant white cross that Johnny had put up.
Yeah.
And then you go off to the right. As we were walking, we went up to the the pavilion stage. You want to say anything about that? What it was like?
It was cool. I mean, they have this huge open dance floor. You can tell and then they have a nice stage and a huge dance floor, and then like another covered area where they have like a bar.
Yeah.
Again, really cool wood furniture and stuff. They had some really cool.
And there's a storyteller's program that I don't know how often it airs, but it's aired from that stage.
Yeah, I think they do, and I could be wrong, but I think that's where they did that Christmas special originally. It probably looked a little different back then.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I believe they did that there.
Yeah, it's been fixed up a bit.
And again, there's some cool stained glass.
Tell us a little bit about that. The whole decor of the place.
Yeah,
it was like old rustic barns, and
right.
hardly you could tell they've been there a long time. But
and then you'd turn around, like it was the what is that called, like the eaves or something?
Yeah, where the
comes,
peaks of the buildings were. They were,
but it would be like that section, and we walked under it and didn't even spot it. I don't think. And then you turn around with the light on the correct side of it, and all of a sudden you're just like, it's just this giant stained glass.
They did this a lot of area there.
Yeah,
where they apparently got this old vintage stained glass, and made it part of these barns and stuff.
Hanging underneath. The overhangs.
And then down on the floor, I noticed that there were plaques, and he was saying.
Yeah, one of them was a verse.
One of them was about the coal miners.
Yeah.
And he was saying, thanking them for all that they went through. Talk about a different mindset than today.
Yeah.
All the things that he's thanking them for, all the hardship and all the things they went through to provide the coal that we all live on. And that was a monument built into the floor, and there was other ones too.
Yeah, there were other ones. There was
Isaiah.
Was it Isaiah or something about blessed? Something about the feet of the man who carries the. Yeah, but there was those. They were like what, metal placards basically built into the floor,
embedded into the floor, like marble or something. I don't know if they're metal. But then there was that. And there was like old carriages and stuff.
Oh yeah,
on the bar side.
It was very cool. Even the stage, it was a lot like the museum smaller stage, but this was a big stage where they do full production. Studio. They have. I noticed that they had some instruments there, and they had somebody's trombone laying there. So they must have been getting ready to do a show. I mean, I wouldn't think a guy would leave his trombone laying there.
No, they must do stuff fairly regularly.
Yeah,
so you gotta figure.
It's cool.
And then from there, we went to the back end, and what was that? The back building that we walked to.
Past the chickens.
Past the chickens.
They did have a chicken coop.
Some chicken coop.
Pretty cool rooster.
Yeah,
it was really pretty.
And all the way in the back, there was, and we're going to kind of wrap some of this up, but in the very back of the property, there was a shed that had a couple cars.
A couple cars. Pretty cool.
One of the cars was from Johnny Paycheck. It was his car. And it was because we're going to talk about the second car. It was his car. And
was it a Cadillac?
It was a Cadillac.
Yeah, it was black. Yeah,
it was cool. It was nice. It was vintage.
Pretty
it was nice classic gear.
Yeah.
And then there was this second car.
You want a story to it?
You want to start that?
Well,
There's a song good. Tell
the song.
There's a song Johnny did that's called "One Piece at a Time." It's a funny song, and it's about how this guy built a car from a little piece here and a little piece there, and he built this Cadillac, and it's just a funny song. And I did it one piece at a time. It's really cool. It's really funny, but there's actually a car.
It's actually it's an actual car.
Explain the car.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to
explain.
When you first walk up to it, I don't notice all the
you just go, there's a car.
That's a weird car.
And then you see the thing, which it looked like it probably lit up. Yeah. It says one piece at a time, kind of as a bar across the hood of the car, or the roof of the car.
Yeah.
And then you start to notice.
Start looking around.
There's one headlight on this side, and there's two on this side. And then you notice on the driver's side, the back seat is another driver's door because it has its own rear view mirror. So there's like two rear view mirrors on this side, one on the, and then you just start picking it up. Like this
inside
fin
car,
is different than that fin.
Inside it, every seat's different.
Yeah, even the inside.
What about the back of it? I think the back of it's the funniest part. The back end of the car.
I might have missed it.
Giant fin on one side, one of those old Cadillac, and the other one's not.
It's a little lower.
And when you stand in front of this car, it's like.
It's like
it's bizarre to look at, and it didn't even process when you first looked at it. You're like, huh? And then we started like dissecting it and being like, everything's different. Every little piece, every door.
We didn't catch it all.
Now I think it was an artist mechanic guy, a friend. We'll put his name in the liner notes as we're talking. But he built that car by specs,
based off
of the song, and then gave it to Johnny. And
that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Awesome.
We didn't get to see under the hood. I would hope that it was just one intact engine. And
has a 4-cylinder, half of a 4-cylinder, and a 12-cylinder. It's like anyway, it's funny.
They also had a couple cool carriages and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Some coaches.
Yeah, there was that.
Really,
it was again. It's just the whole place was just delightful. It was really delightful.
Yeah.
I'm carried right back to his time. But it was really cool.
It was
last impressions of everything. I started out with this, is the person Johnny Cash, that's what changed a lot for me.
Yeah.
A lot more in depth. What are some of your thoughts on that?
I liked walking through the place and recognizing, because he made it clear how significant that place was to him. And so realizing that that's where he landed, like we said earlier, after tours and when he went to go write. And there was that cool story that only his wife had the phone number to that place.
No phone.
His kids didn't even know the number.
Nobody could call.
If anyone came around the house looking for Johnny and she called, if he wasn't there, that was the end of the discussion.
That says something about him.
You couldn't get to him. He closed himself off. But walking through the place and picturing it as this place that he loved. We walked past that big fire pit, right? And it's very easy to just kind of feel that you could just stoke up a fire there and look at this huge field that's out in front of you with the tree line. That's where the cross was off there. It was really cool to kind of read the place as no wonder this place brought him so much peace, and it was a beautiful spot.
It felt like a contemplative place.
Yes.
Yeah. It had that.
Any more thoughts on it? We're going to kind of wrap things.
No, I think it was pretty amazing to see and unexpected, and
this was our side trip.
Yeah.
This was a side trip of the HOPE Project. We want to encourage people to watch the HOPE Projects as they come out. About once a month you're going to be finding them. And they're going to be little towns, little cities, and we're not going to talk much about it up ahead, but we will be going there. And we're going to be doing a different town, pointing out the beauty of these towns, the coolness of these towns, ways we can support the communities in towns. Exactly. That's what the whole idea is. And also we're playing our catalog, our music. We got SER Records and Media, which is Stage Crew Records, but SER Records and Media is what we're calling it now, because we're doing a lot more media kind of things.
Yeah.
Well, we have a big catalog of songs and music, and so we're redoing them, reintroducing them, and that brings us to the end of this show. During this whole Centerville thing, we focused on two different songs. One was a song that was like a Memorial Day song that we released, and it's called "Our Love Is a Danger," and we sang it to Minnie Pearl. and then the other song we focused on was called "High Plains Drifter," a song that you and I have played way back when we first started, we've played it to audiences and places.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, and they kind of set for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But being that we're in Centerville and we're in Johnny Cash, we're kind of in the country-ish thing. So we did a video of us live playing at the Huddleston House. I want to say also, Mark Hayes and the Huddleston House. They gave us such a great place to stay. It was an amazing house, a historic house.
We could do a whole episode on
that. We could do a whole show.
Yeah. But we're very grateful. And
so the video of High Plains Drifter that Johnny and I played, that we played there, was in that house. Yeah. And but we also had recorded a new version, a JAILSONG. It's a solo song, and I recorded it for with completely new recording of a different style, different measure, all that stuff. And so I released the official audio for that when we were just before all of this. Yeah. Because I knew we were heading that way. Yeah. So the official audio went out and ran its cycle, and people commented and liked it. But we never had an official video, and now we do. So we're using this episode to premiere High Plains Drifter, and we hope you enjoy it. See you next time.
Cowboy's work is never done. On the trail in the morning before the rising of the sun. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Same sun rises high in the sky above, breathing dust in the desert wind and singing the song of love. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Heart tuned to the grace shown from above. Eyes struck by the beauty, it goes on and on and on and on and on. On and on. Face forms in the gathering of the clouds, heart drenched in splendor as the big sky breathes your name out loud. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Sparks fly in the evening firelight. Night drapes around me as I tip my hat to the one who holds the night in sight. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay. Hi, hi, yippee-yi-yay.